Hey everybody, it's time to get a little bit technical. I recently remade my orchestral template for composing, and I've done some things in ways that I haven't really seen other people do quite the same. So I'm curious to hear if you do things similarly, if you do them differently, what you think, if you have any ideas for me. My priorities in building this, first of all, I use a MIDI channel instead of key switch based system. I find it a lot more intuitive to work with. The other thing is I use Vienna Ensemble Pro. That is a recent change and I am super glad about it. It reduces my file sizes by a ton because all of the individual VST settings are saved once in my Vienna Ensemble server preset, which means auto-saving is instant as well as opening and closing files. Microphone volumes for different instruments are controlled via automation in my DAW. So without further ado, let's check out how I laid this out. Here we go. We are in my DAW Reaper. Let's see. So I'm going to take you through the process of kind of how I built this template, and then I'll show you the finished result. So let's start with brass. I use one folder as like a bus, and then the others are children, and I give them a color. I make my brass red for whatever reason. It's just what I do. There we go. Reddish. That works. And then each of these channels is for each instrument. So we have trumpet 1, trumpet 2, trumpet 3, or trumpet ensemble. I'm not going to put all of them in here. I think there's about 14. Okay. Now I'm going to go over to Vienna Ensemble. So this is already set up. You can see my 4 instances here. But I'm going to add a new one, and we're just going to call it Berlin Brass Example. All right, that's cool. Now over here, I need to add instances of contact, one for each instrument. So insert plugin, I am going to put in contact, and then we'll do that again and again. And obviously I do that a lot. So, and I'm going to name these here just to keep track. So we have trumpet 1, trumpet 2, and trumpet ensemble. Cool. So trumpet 1 here, pull up Berlin Brass, go to my trumpet 1, and now, so you'll see I'm using the individual articulation patches instead of the multis. That's so that I can route one MIDI channel to each articulation. So I have trumpet legato on channel 1. I always have legatos on 1. What? I'm not sure what's going on there. Apparently it's not loading the samples. Let's just do channel 2 today. I don't know what's going on there, and I don't want to fix it right now. Okay. So trumpet 2, I put legatos first. That's always my channel 1. Channel 2 is always some kind of sustain. Channel 3 is usually an alternate sustain. So for brass, I like having the soft attacks available. For string instruments, I put tremolo here. So I try to keep it the same between instruments as much as possible, because it means that I can be more experimental with my arranging. And then 4, 5, and 6 I do my short notes. So I do marcatos, staccato, staccatissimo, or whatever the 3 shortest are in order from longer to short. Channel 7, I like to put playable runs if possible, some kind of scale or stuff. And then channel 8 is pizzicato on string instruments. And on other instruments, if available, I use trills, which I have right here. There we go. That's my work. Or that's how I lay it out over here. Now let's go back to Reaper. So to hook this up, I need to put in the Vienna Ensemble Pro plugin. I connect it to my Berlin Brass Example. Boom, it's connected. I found that I don't actually even need buffers, so I leave that off. And I also hit this thing, decouple all plugins. Super important. If you don't do this, it saves all of the plugin info in your project file, so it kind of defeats the purpose of using Vienna Ensemble, unless your main purpose is to run instruments on a slave, which is fine too. But I use this, very important. All right, and now what'll happen is I can have MIDI in here and it'll send it over to the Vienna project. The problem is I want to be able to send separate MIDI channels on each of these instruments. So for instance, on trumpet 2, I want my channel 1 to go over to Vienna Ensemble to the second instrument. So this is where the routing gets interesting, and we're actually going to use MIDI buses. Reaper is a weirdo about MIDI buses. So what we do here for trumpet 1 is fine. For the, I'm going to do custom sends here. So I'm going to add a send to Berlin Brass instead of doing the parent send. I don't need it to send the audio, and all of the MIDI is going to go to bus 1. Like that, and then for trumpet 2, turn off the regular send, add a new send to Berlin Brass, no audio. All of the MIDI goes to bus 2. The nice thing about this is it preserves the MIDI channels. It just changes the bus, and so forth. So for the third one, turn off the parent send, because else it's going to be weird and send MIDI over directly to the parent, but I want to control exactly what and how it sends. So no audio. I'm actually not sure if I need to set the audio to none, but I've been doing that. Okay, and then bus 3 goes to the MIDI thing. Now, here's one extra step, and this is nuts if you want to do this in Reaper, because as far as I understand, Reaper has like a legacy way of dealing with MIDI buses internally that's non-standard, and so it doesn't communicate those buses through VST instruments. Which sucks, and at first I thought this wouldn't work, and then after scouring forums I found this little obscure setting. So check this out. You have to go to Vienna Ensemble, or you can look in your effects list, right? You have your Vienna Ensemble. Now up here you have a little button called to out. That's for routing, right? You have your inputs and outputs. Now in there's another in out button, and then in there you go to MIDI input, map Reaper MIDI buses to VST3 MIDI buses. Why this isn't on by default, I have no idea. So you click that. All right, I can have 16 MIDI channels here on trumpet 2. Those will be sent through Vienna Ensemble over through the VST plugin over here. And now I just need to set up the mapping here. So these little numbers right here in Vienna Ensemble, for trumpet 1, I have MIDI bus 1, and then channels I want all. For trumpet 2, I want bus 2, channels all, and so forth. Third one, we have bus 3 and channels all for our input. Sweet. So now what will happen is, let's go back over to Reaper and try this out. Here's my trumpet 2. I'm going to add a MIDI item and throw in some notes somewhere where they make sense. Beautiful. And then what's great here is I just select the notes. I use my numbers to change channels. So you can see yellow, orange, red. Those are my shorts. Those are channels 3, MIDI channels 3, 4, and 5. So I'm going to make those the shortest. 5. I want a little bit of emphasis on the first one. Change it to 4. Boom. And that's how easy it is to change my notes because I'm using channels. It also gives me a visual indication of what's going on in the sheet music. And that, friends, is why I use MIDI channels, not key switches. It's a beautiful system. So this is working perfectly. Let me play that again, but show you how that looks in Vienna Ensemble. There you go. It's a stunning melody. So that's what's going on here. And now let's make things a little bit more complicated because I am obsessed with being able to control my mic positions. I want to be doing that more. So in the Berlin plugins, this is actually an amazing VST. The amount of control it gives you down here in all of these settings is absurd. So you flip through these settings until it says mixer. Okay, so now I have my mics. My close mic 1 fader is on CC75. I'm going to leave that, and it's linear. That's fine. So we go back to Reaper, and I add in my, what is it called? Oh, recontrol. And this is just so that I can automate things. So I'm going to go to MIDI CC75, which I believe is called Sound Control 6. Yes, it is. All right, so Sound Control 6. So this thing now, you can't see it on the other screen. Oh, let me switch over. And now if I move this, you can see that fader moving. I wanted to have it set it up so that when I went to 0, it would also purge the samples from that mic position out of RAM. And that is possible, my friends. So check it out. We go back over to the mixer, close 1 purge settings. And I set this to the same CC as the mic, also 75. I max it out. Wait, is this the right direction? I think I do. I turn it up for everything, so that's not purged except at the lowest setting. So now, let's see if I got this right. I do this, sweet, close mic, and then I go to 0, and boom, it's gone. There, gone. And you can see up here, memory, 0.54 gigs. If I turn this mic on, it goes about double because we're loading in a second mic position. So we're at 1.8 gigs. I turn it down, it's still there, turn it off, and boom, it's out. This is amazing. By default, I just have the tree mic loaded, but I have all the mics mapped to controllers here. I'll do one more controller, and then I'll leave it at that. So I do that for all the mics. Let's just test this, make sure it works. So we go over here. Now I should have close 2 mic on, off, close 1 mic on, off. It's beautiful and it's working. So that is a pain. However, thanks to the folks over at Orchestral Tools, they have a save function up here where you can save your preset and anything custom you have in it, save. So I hit save. I already have one, horn, 1 legato. That's one I originally started with. Turns out it works for everything. So I'm not going to save this right now, but horn 1 legato is the same thing. And then what I do is I just go to any other brass patch and I hit load and I load that one in and it's done. And now this one will have that same CC mapping. So actually, because Recontrol is going to all MIDI channels, this will do both of them at the same time. Check this out. So this is the beauty of it. I move this and boom, it's setting the microphone for all of the MIDI channels on that instrument. And this. So that's how I did my brass, winds, and strings. So I'm just going to do one channel here real quick and call it my snare example because I don't want to go crazy with it. Let's go do a new instance here in Vienna Ensemble, and this will be my snare example. This is the kind of routing we can do. So over in Vienna Ensemble, I am going to add an instance. I'm actually going to add East-West Play. So check this out. I'm just going to load up a few snare drums. Brass, mahogany, a pearl one. Let's do the end. Oh, sorry. It's loading them all onto the same channel. Okay. So I have to go like this. Add this, add this, add. And you see it's putting all these snare drums on different MIDI channels. Bus 1, all MIDI channels. This is snare. Okay, cool. Now I go back over to Reaper, put in an instance of Vienna Ensemble Pro, connect it to my snare. Oh, crap. That scared me. Okay. No buffer, disconnect it here, and do the silly... Wait, where was it? 2 in, 2 out. Yep, in, out. Use buses. I don't think I need to do that in this case since I'm just doing it on one channel, but this is how I would actually do it. Well, let's do it properly. So I would actually have this as a sub-channel. This would be like my percussion example, and then here would be my snare. And so I would make sure that that snare is routing all of its MIDI to my percussion channel, no audio, all MIDI to bus 1, because that's where the snare drums are. Now, what's so cool about this is we write a snare drum line. Okay, so I want to roll there. Perfect. Okay, so we have something like this. Oh, together with the trumpet? Sure, why not? Let's. With this, we can write in, so this is a regular hit. This up here is a roll. I write this piece and I'm like, you know what? I need a different snare drum here. What do I do? I'm just going to change the channel. Boom. I want the green snare drum. What? So you might notice a downside here too, which is if I want 2 things at the same time, 2 snare drums, 2 articulations on another instrument, theoretically I can do it because I can use multiple MIDI channels, but it doesn't look very good in the MIDI editor. So that's a pretty rare scenario, and a lot of people will actually have a separate track set up for like their long and they're shorts. It doesn't happen often enough that I want to have all those extra tracks in my template. So what I do is, let's say I do want this in another snare drum, or I do want to have trumpet staccatos and legatos at the same time. I just add a sub channel, just like that, sends everything to the snare channel. I can just copy this over here and do whatever I want in that moment. So now I have these two snares playing together. So for the rare instance that I want to do multiple articulations simultaneously on the same instrument, I do this. For now, that has been totally sufficient for me, and yeah, got to compromise somewhere, I guess. So that's my setup, folks. Now let me show you my full template. This is how long it takes to load my template. I have my Orchestral load in the background as soon as my PC starts, so it's a non-issue. I go over here, insert track, template, Vienna Ensemble for Orchestra. Let's see how long it takes. Ready, set, go. Done. Folks, that's it. That's my full orchestral template. So we have woodwinds, brass, percussion, and strings. Yes, I include harp in percussion because I am sacrilegious that way. It just makes more sense to me for how I write music, so I don't care that it's classified as string instrument. By the way, that classification is silly anyway. I much prefer classifying things as idiophones, quartophones, etc. Yeah, so this is my setup. So I pretty much showed you all the stuff that I did for like my brass and woodwinds. It's all like the same kind of thing. I should show you, because of how I map the stuff in RE Control, I can actually go to my automation here and turn on the microphones in the UI if I want. And then I directly, for horn 1, I can just turn these knobs. I can turn off the tree mic, turn up close 1, add in a little bit of the surround mic and some ORTF because I like it. And boom, we're good to go. I could also do that with animation curves, which I'm not going to, or automation curves, which I'm not going to do right now. So that's how all of those work. I also want to show you how consistent my articulations are. So this is pretty cool. Let's write a flute line. It has some legato. Are we still on the right monitor? I sure hope so. Yeah, flute's right down this. And then we have some shorts right there. So we have sweet. And then I'm like, well, wait, what would that sound like if I put it in horn or trumpet? Okay, so the levels of the articulations won't always match perfectly, but I can just transfer it like that. It doesn't always work. Obviously, if I'm going to move it to piano, having the multiple channels doesn't make sense. Although, yeah, so I just need to go in here, select them, and move them all to channel 1. Cool. And then I do have, so for snares, see, I have all of the things written out in MIDI so I know where they are, and then I switch through the channels to get different snare drums. I did the same thing for bass drums and gongs. One last thing, so since I have Vienna Ensemble running on the same computer, it means I have to leave the server open at all times, which can be kind of annoying. So this is a really simple thing, but I just want to share it with you guys. If you're on Windows at least, I hit Windows tab, and then I can just move this to a second desktop, and I don't use that desktop, which means I don't see it anywhere on my regular desktop. It is gone. I can't imagine that was anything but super exciting to watch. So again, I would love to hear your thoughts. Hope it was informative and maybe gave you some ideas, and I'll see you around. Bye.